You are fluent in Thanksgiving if you can answer these questions. So I have a vocabulary quiz for you. And if you are someone who enjoys building your vocabulary, then I would ask that you please subscribe, turn on notifications. That way I can become your teacher. My name is Wes. The channel is Interactive English. It's all about trying to help you reach your fluency goals. And look, let me address the first question, or first thing that you may be thinking, which is, Wes, I don't celebrate Thanksgiving. And, if that's the case, that's perfectly okay. This is a popular family holiday in the United States, which is where I am from. And you can think of this as a little bit of a cultural lesson as well, even though some of the vocabulary that I'm going to present and go over, it can be used in a variety of other contexts and situations as well. And I promise, I say this every lesson, but I promise that you will learn something new. And if this is your first time here, let me know. Write to me in the chat, in the comments. Tell me where you're from. I just love hearing from you guys. The other thing I want to mention is that if you would like a copy of the lesson notes that you see right here, check out the link down in the description. You can join our email community. And if you are already a part of the email community, check your inbox because I have sent them to you, or at least they're on the way. I'll go ahead and throw that link in the chat as well. So let's just go ahead and get started with some collocations and idioms. If you're unfamiliar, collocations are words that are frequently used together. So the first question that I have for you, and I want you all to participate because this is interactive English after all. It's all about you guys participating in these lessons. I want you to fill in the blank. Who would like to the turkey? Write your answer in the comments, in the chat. I already see a lot of familiar names in the chat. Great to see everyone. I'll try to give some shout outs as I go through this. Good to see some members. Oh, Lali, Takaya or Melinda. Excellent. Rafaela. Perfect. So what do you think? Who would like to the turkey? I'll go ahead and tell you that the answer is not cut, because some of you might be thinking, oh, okay, cut the turkey. Which, again, I don't want to say that's incorrect, but I'm looking for a different verb. I'm looking for a more precise verb that's often used when talking about turkey, because you're going to, I don't want to say the verb, but you're going to create like these slices. So this is a verb that you would use in this context when talking about turkey, because, yeah, everybody, Thanksgiving, this is like the one thing that everybody thinks about. It's turkey, turkey, turkey. Great job. Nice. Julia Hadi, the answer is carve. Who would like to carve the turkey? Now, of course, there are other verbs that you could fill in that would actually, they would fit. If I saw some answers like who would like to, eat the turkey, cut the turkey, cook the turkey, stuff the turkey. There are, of course, many different verbs that you could put in there. In this case, I was looking for carve, and I mentioned before that, don't think about cut. In this case, we're going to use carve. Who would like to carve the turkey? But I like everybody's energy and enthusiasm in going through and answering these questions. This one it's a little more difficult. But I'll read this to you. Thanksgiving is a family holiday, and some people may homage to their ancestors and those who came before them. Now, of course, not. Some families do this, and the key word in there is homage. I will tell you the meaning of that after, and this is a collocation. If you're talking about homage, which verb are you going to use? You're going to homage to their ancestors and those who came before them. I'll go ahead and tell you, this is not the most common phrase in the world. It is something that, again, you may come across it during certain events or holidays. In this case, we're talking about Thanksgiving, and wow, you guys, you're spot on with this one. To pay Homage. Well done. Chestnut, Tom, Rafaela, Jerry, Ermelinda. Nice. Excellent. Wow, I thought this one would be a little more challenging. So I gave you the meaning down here. To pay homage is you're showing deep respect, often praise that you would show to a person or God, and you pay homage. So it does apply to this situation. If you're paying homage to your ancestors, you say what you're thankful for, you're grateful for, at least at Thanksgiving, and you're paying homage to those who came before you. Well done, everyone. Bonus points for you. At Thanksgiving, we should count our. This is another. It's a phrase. I'll go ahead and say, it's a collocation. I don't think it's an idiom necessarily, because I think the meaning is kind of like what it says. So in this case, it's a common phrase. This is one that you again, you don't have to just use it at Thanksgiving. I think it fits in with this holiday and what people tend to do around Thanksgiving, and it's kind of embodies that Thanksgiving spirit. And I think this is a phrase that many of you have heard of before. You may hear it when watching movies or TV shows. We should count our And once again, I see you guys are on top of this. The answer is blessings. To count our blessings or count one's blessings, just make sure you are going to use that possessive adjective. Count my blessings, count your blessings. Well done, Lali, Rafaela, Angela. Nice. So again, I went ahead and gave you the meaning, but if you say, look, we should count our blessings. We should be grateful for the things that we have, which again is part of Thanksgiving. This is what some families will do, and they say thanks for the things that they have been blessed with. Here is another phrase that is relevant to Thanksgiving because it is a food holiday. We're going to talk about food in just a moment. But again, you could use this phrase when I think it would really come up anytime there is a gathering, a larger number of people who are going to get together and they're going to eat together, whether breakfast, lunch, or dinner. You may ask this question: who is going to the table? You see the picture of the silverware, that knife and fork. That is a little bit of a hint. So in this case, I'm basically asking you which verb is going to complete this question. To the table. Wow, you guys, this is good. This is good. You guys are definitely advanced. The answer, which many of you knew, is set the table. Well done, Whitney, Ratman, Takayo, Tom, Mohammed, Esai. Nice, good to see you. Good, excellent. Just trying to give some shout outs as we go through this. So when you set the table, somebody would go around and they'd put down like the napkin, the fork, the spoon, the knife. And again, it's a phrase that you would typically use if you're talking about a group of people. It could just be four or more, but in this case, somebody is going to set the table and everybody will eat together. Definitely something you would hear at Thanksgiving. Now this, I'm trying to make it a little more difficult, and I will go ahead and say that this is an idiom, and it's not directly linked to Thanksgiving. There is a word in this idiom that is definitely connected with Thanksgiving. That's as much of a hint as I'm going to give you. The key word in here would be quit. I'm gonna quit. I tried to show there are two blanks there. So this is a phrase. I've gone ahead and said it's an idiom. A key word is quit. And I would say that with this idiom, that is a collocation, to quit. And again, I think once I show you the answer, if you weren't sure, I know you can see some of the answers in the chat. I think, okay, yeah, I think I've heard of this before. Somebody's pushing something away. They're trying to quit, and they're going to quit cold turkey. Nice, excellent. Manuel, Angela, Excellent. Snowflakes. So if you say that you're going to quit cold turkey or that somebody quits something cold turkey, they stop suddenly and completely. And often you end up using this idiom when referring to like a drug, whether it's alcohol or cigarettes. I feel like those are the two most common things that people would talk about trying to quit and quit cold turkey, suddenly and completely. All right, this is another one that, okay, let's just read it. Moving across the country allowed me to meet my future wife. It turned out to be a Now, I just gave one line there. It is more than one word. This is a phrase. It's also a phrase, or I guess it's an idiom, that you could use apart from Thanksgiving. Any situation that would fit this description. So think about what's going on. This person moved across the country. Perhaps they didn't want to. They were a little nervous. They were unsure about moving across the country, but they met their future wife. If we're looking at this picture, they had a family and they're very happy. So it turned out to be a what? So I haven't seen the answer yet, so I'll give you a little more time. I see some people are like blessing, keep going. I told you this is a phrase, not just one word, blessing, and then what are you going to follow that with? And excellent, Ava or Melinda, a blessing in disguise. So, of course, if you said something turned out to be a blessing, that works. That fits this context, this situation. But if we're talking about a blessing in disguise, this is an idiom. I give you the meaning down there. It's a misfortune that eventually has good results. And that's why I tried to set this up that, well, maybe this person didn't want to move across the country, but then this good thing happened and there were good results. The future wife had a family. It was a blessing in disguise. And once again, you could use this to describe a variety of situations in which some unfortunate situation eventually has good results, a blessing in disguise. So let's, in case you're hungry, let's get to the next part and talk about food, because of course, Thanksgiving is it's a family holiday, but I'd say it's also a food holiday. This is something else that people think about when they hear Thanksgiving. So what I want to do now, and I want to test your food knowledge. So it's still vocabulary, but it's also, well, you'll see. I'm going to show you a picture of some food, and I just want you to tell me what it is. And again, I want you to be precise. So here is your first one. This is something that you would see on the table at many Thanksgiving gatherings. And I imagine you know the food, but what is the name specifically of this? Okay, so what do you think? It's the first time that I'm live. All right, Daniela, welcome. Awesome. First time live. Perfect. So I know that I'm going to go ahead and tell you, like, you need to give me more than just corn. So what else would you follow it? This is corn, So it's 4 words. And one thing, keep in mind that preposition. So it's not corn in, but corn on. Corn on what? Corn on the cob. Corn on the cob. So again, I was looking for that full phrase, corn on the cob. And yeah, this is something that I think many people eat at Thanksgiving. So here is the next one. And again, I think most families would eat this at Thanksgiving. Of course, you could eat this in other times of the year, but I just don't think it's as often. I don't think it's as often prepared. So basically, I can go ahead and try to describe this to you. It's like you have bread mixed in with some vegetables, mostly I think like celery and onions, and this bread crust, and it's baked together. It's soft, it's delicious, and this, excellent, well done. Lolly, Ratman, fatty acid, love the name. Stuffing. So Thanksgiving, you're going to eat corn on the cob, you're going to have some stuffing, and of course, you're going to have some of this as well. I think this one, I think some of these food items you're familiar with. Maybe you forgot the name, but definitely if you're talking, if you know somebody from the US and you're having a conversation about Thanksgiving, food is something that you may definitely talk about. So it's good to know some of these words and phrases, and you could ask somebody, hey, do you guys prepare a lot of corn on the cob? Are you gonna have who's gonna make the stuffing? And do you end up you end up using a lot of what? What is this? This is something that I've noticed because I've somebody who's lived outside of the U.S. I feel like it's not as common in many other places that I've lived. Unfortunately, I'd really love this. And excellent, well done. Lali, Rafaela, gravy. We're talking about gravy. I think in the U.S., gravy, something that Americans love. And you put gravy on the turkey. You put gravy on the stuffing. You can put gravy on, not on the corn on the cob. Generally, no. Maybe somebody does. But gravy is something, yeah, you're gonna use it. This would be, I guess, your dessert. So, of course, you can look at this picture and you see that, okay, this is a piece of pie. And, of course, I want you to tell me what kind of pie is this right here. Think about Thanksgiving, the fall season. I don't want to give it away too much, but again, what would you think about in the fall? We just had Halloween, and at least in the US they did. And so I think many other countries are starting to participate in Halloween. But of course at Halloween, a big thing are those pumpkins. And at Thanksgiving, you are going to have some pumpkin pie. All right, pumpkin pie. Well done. All right, everybody did really well on that one. Excellent. Okay, this is something I look forward to at Thanksgiving. I really enjoy this food right here. And what is it? And this, again, everybody's different. I feel like growing up, this is something that really, at least I would only have around Thanksgiving. It's not something that I would end up eating throughout the year. So what do you think? Looking at the picture, you can probably tell that this is some type of bread. And I'll go ahead and give you that. But what kind of bread? And you see that slice of butter on top there. And you're not going to put butter on top like it's a little hat. It's just kind of showing you, yes, there is butter that you would use when preparing this bread. Excellent. Lolly C, Gloria, cornbread. Cornbread is also very popular at Thanksgiving. I've kind of tried to run through the most important things, apart from turkey, which I think you know, which we were looking at a turkey at the very beginning. All right, this last one is more challenging, and I just wanted to throw this one in there because maybe this is a new word. It's not a word that you're going to go out and use, that you're probably going to come across that much. But again, I wanted to try to throw something new each and every lesson. So let me explain. Looking at this picture, what would you call like this whole thing? This mixture. You see this, there's food, the vegetables in there. What would you call that? All right, and okay, perfect. So I think many of you heard of the Whitney, Angela, Lolly, nice. A cornucopia. A cornucopia. It refers to that. Really, like I said, this picture, that symbol. It's like a symbol of nourishment, and you have that horn-shaped container that is overflowing with maybe produce, flowers, nuts, and it's a cornucopia. So, like I said, this is not a word that you're just going to go out and end up using in everyday conversation. So let me make it a little more challenging. I told you it's a vocabulary lesson, but it's also a cultural lesson. So let's kind of move in to the cultural aspect of this and talk a little bit about the history and some of the traditions at Thanksgiving. So the first thing, we'll see how much you know about this American holiday. And I know some of you, again, people who follow me, watch this channel, actually live in the US, or they're celebrating Thanksgiving, or maybe some of you have celebrated Thanksgiving with someone before. What do you think? English settlers who traveled to America and established a colony in Plymouth, Massachusetts were called the what? Kind of leading into the first Thanksgiving and thinking about, well, the people that were a part of that. So when you think of Thanksgiving, especially the history, this is a word that would come up. And these are the people that they may refer to. These English settlers, they traveled across to America, to the New World. They established a colony at Plymouth, Massachusetts, and they were called, well done, Helena, Lolly, Arena, the Pilgrims. So this would be these settlers, the name of this group who established this colony. Excellent. Rafaela, Angela. So we have the Pilgrims. Melinda, Suma, nice. I'm just going to keep throwing some shout outs in there. And let's fast forward. They arrive in the New World, and the event referred to as the first Thanksgiving. I'm putting it in quotes because it's not formally established like which was actually the first one. This is considered to be the first Thanksgiving. Was celebrated by the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag people. The Wampanoag was the Native American tribe that was in the area, and it was celebrated by the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag people in November of what year? So I've given you 4 options down there. 1521, 1621, 1721, or 1821. I think just thinking about the history, and I think you could probably kind of put this together which year I'm talking about. So the answer, all right, you guys, excellent, is November of 1621. This is when the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag came together and they celebrated the first Thanksgiving in November. All right. And then let's continue. And this actually, I think this one's a little more challenging. Not necessarily, it's part of Thanksgiving. Again, the history, because we're talking about the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag, and people are like, well, how did they, did people really get along back then? Well, this is somebody who is in the middle of that as to whether or not they got along, who was kind of the bridge between the colonist and some of the Native American tribes. So this person acted as an interpreter and guide to the Pilgrim settlers at Plymouth during their first winter in the New World. I've given you 4 choices: Pocahontas, Geronimo, Sacagawea, and Squanto. Again, I feel like maybe you could process of elimination, because I'm sure maybe you've heard of some of these before. So let me just kind of run through this. So Geronimo was an Apache warrior much later on. All right, that's I think like the 1800s something. Sacagawea was an interpreter, but Sacagawea was an interpreter for Lewis and Clark, that expedition, which also came after. Pocahontas is, maybe you've seen the Disney movie. Pocahontas, this would actually be like kind of, I don't want to say the closest, but let me explain. So Pocahontas was I guess you would say like a tribal princess of sorts. She married a colonist, actually at one point traveled to Europe, and in Europe, she crossed paths with Squanto. Squanto was somebody who was enslaved, taken to Europe. I think they crossed paths with Pocahontas. So these two actually lived around the same time. And Squanto then returned to the New World as an interpreter, guide, was kind of the person bridging part of that relationship between the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag. And so the answer is, it's a very long explanation for Squanto being the answer to this question. So this is the person who played a role in bridging that relationship. Here's another one that I think is pretty challenging. Which president made Thanksgiving Day a holiday? And I'm showing you this picture of Mount Rushmore because it's one of these. It's one of these guys right here. That's the answer. So basically, it's another multiple choice question. One of these presidents made Thanksgiving Day a holiday. We have George Washington. I'll just go in order. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, or Abraham Lincoln. Which one of those? So I'll give you another hint. This is somebody who served as president at a time when it was really important to try and bring the country together. And they made Thanksgiving Day a holiday. Before that, there were different like Thanksgiving Day proclamations as far as making a proclamation about this day, but this president wanted to bring the country together, or needed to, and they made Thanksgiving Day a holiday. Not that this was the thing that actually brought the country together, but during this time there was a lot of division. And me just saying that, I imagine you know that the answer, yes, excellent, is Lincoln. Good job, Rafaela, Lali, Suma, Angela, Manuel. Nice. So Abraham Lincoln is the first president that actually made Thanksgiving Day a holiday. And I believe that when Abraham Lincoln did this, he had originally, I think, said it's going to be the last Thursday in November. And then over time, it's kind of changed. Now Thanksgiving is, of course, celebrated on the fourth Thursday in November. That is when everybody recognizes and has this holiday. Okay, the last one. This is more recent. We started, definitely from the very beginning, and now coming up to today, a couple of traditions. This is, again, partly my opinion, but they're on Thanksgiving Day. Now, there are two things that people may watch on TV on Thanksgiving Day, and those two things are the what and what. Now, that doesn't mean many people don't even turn on the TV Thanksgiving Day. But if somebody is going to turn on the TV, probably they may watch one of these things, or maybe they end up watching both of them. What do you think? So there are two different things. I want to see if anybody can kind of think, Vivian, you're on the right track. You're definitely on the right track. So the two things that are odd, Fatty, I said again, you're kind of on the right track. So the Super Bowl is not until later. The Super Bowl is going to be the next year. So right now we're, I think about like at this time, like week 11, week 12 in the football season. So you're on the right track because it's not the Super Bowl, because that's the final game of the season. But in general, I would say football. The videos of Wes. Yes, that would be awesome too. Love that answer, Lily. Football in general, because the season is still going on, but it's the fourth Thursday of November. There are professional football games on Thursday, and they have two different games. It's kind of I guess you could say it's maybe become a tradition, a sport tradition in the United States. So people are they may watch football, or in the morning, they may watch the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. So yes, parade is a correct answer. If you want to be specific, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And the reason I'm listing that is because I feel like Macy's has been, I think, sponsoring this parade for a long time, ever since I was a kid. And it's basically that is the parade. So you're right if you said, football, parade, that's perfect. But those are two things that people may watch on Thanksgiving Day, either one or both, or perhaps just nothing. So I hopefully you learned one or two new things about this holiday. Here is a list of just a little bit of review. I feel like the collocations and idioms part of this may be a little more relevant because these are things that you may actually use in conversation if you're talking about setting the table, or we should count our blessings, or something is a blessing in disguise. Of course, what I'd like to do before you head out, I'd like to see how well you did on this quiz. So again, I'm going to put in a poll. How well did you do on this Thanksgiving quiz? All right. Let's, oh, whoops, not a Q&A. That's not the one that I want to do. I want to do a quiz. Okay, so I'm trying to think of some creative things to say. I'm just gonna say I did great. Not bad. And let's see, the last one, I'm such a turkey. Like if you call yourself turkey, okay, that's not good. And that would tell me that, okay, maybe you need to study a little more about Thanksgiving. Not that it's necessary, because like I said, this is a popular American holiday. So once again, I know many of you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, which is fine. It's more of a cultural lesson, especially vocabulary that you may come across if you're listening to somebody talk about Thanksgiving, or you're in a conversation and people are celebrating Thanksgiving, or maybe you just happen to be traveling to the US in November and it's going to be Thanksgiving, and yeah, you could maybe use or come across some of these words. So it seems like a little bit of a mix as far as how well everybody did it on the quiz, but I think most people seem to be in that not bad camp. But as always, I really thank you for participating in these lessons. That is what it's all about. That's the most important thing. And again, if you want to get a copy of these notes, check out that link down below in the description. Join our email community, and from time to time, I will send you some of these useful resources whenever I do these live lessons. Well, thank you so much. I want to just give some more shout outs. Rafaela, good to see you. Takayo, good to see you too. I'll see you soon. Manuel, Julia, Ava, Lolly, Angela, thanks for being here. Fatty Acid. Just trying to think. Okay, I guess I probably should wrap things up. So, I can use some of these too. Like, all right. I can put up some hearts and smiley faces, and all right, I'm just learning that now. Perfect. Okay, maybe I'll start taking advantage of that. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving if you happen to be celebrating this holiday. If not, I just hope you have a wonderful Thursday. Enjoy the upcoming weekend, and I will see you soon, very soon in the future, for another lesson. So long. See you then.